gentlemen, um, some Democrats in Congress are looking and talking about impeachment against Donald Trump. Let's find this breaking news out from MSNBC and let's figure out what exactly that means in this reporting. The article is titled, "Some Democrats in Congress are starting to talk about impeachment. They're right. It's time to stop beating around the bush. Trump must be impeached and removed from office." And ladies and gentlemen, the article reads, since January 20th, many have spoken of a constitutional crisis. The one lawlessness of a president trying to make himself a king is all but name. But by and large, elected Democrats have bent over backwards to avoid using a certain word. Their alarm bells ring hollow when the unavoidable implication is left unstated. But it's time to stop beating around the bush. Trump must be impeached and removed from Congress. A few members of Congress understand this and are willing to say it. It's a start, and now where public pressure is essential, it's more effective than you might think at breaking the silence. There are a number of objections behind the conventional wisdom against talk of impeachment, but they don't hold up. A group of self-organized volunteers has been recruiting voters in every House district and started simply asking congressional offices, Operation Anti-King. They fittingly called it, in addition to Al Green, Democratic from Texas, who has already called for impeachment and has done so many times since Trump's first term. Bonamica and Maxine Dexter of Oregon, Sam Liccardo and Maxine Waters of California, Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, Sherry Thanidar of Michigan, and Hank Johnson of Georgia In a statement to this group, Dexter made the obvious connection. Donald Trump, cruel, chaotic, and unlawful actions have put our democracy at risk. I will not stand by while our democracy is ended. I support impeachment because no one is above the law. Bonanica, I believe. Bonanica likewise affirmed her support because he is violating the constitutional rights of people in this country and ignoring the rule of law. There are a number of objections behind the conventional wisdom against talk of impeachment, but they don't hold up. The theory of a backlash in Trump's favor has no real evidence. There was no such reaction against his first impeachment, after which Democrats went on to win trifecta in the next election, or the second, after which Democrats beat expectations, even with an unpopular president in 2022. Similarly, the idea that it's too soon since last year's election would amount to giving presidents license to destroy the Constitution so long as they do it promptly. Trump's approvals are already falling sharply, especially since his tariff fiasco threatens to drive the economy off a cliff. And millions have already turned out across the country for mass protests. It is a severe failure of imagination to think his public support is some static fact of nature, or that the present crisis will continue to escalate as America slides into open authoritarianism and economic ruin. We can't afford an opposition that, as MSNBC's Chris Hayes recently told Senator Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, is doing nothing more than the kinds of things you'd be doing if Mitt Romney were president. As the government flings itself apart, we will keep coming back to the grim reality. Trump can't be restrained or reasoned with or babysat for the next 4 years. The only way to bring power back under the rule of law is to remove a lawless man from power. Members of Congress don't swear an oath to defend the Constitution. Only if it tests well in a focus group or with pundits and consultants, nor does Republican opposition justify inaction. Refusing to do the right thing because you expect others won't join is just another form of complying in advance. Alexandra Hamilton explained impeachment covers offenses that are of a nature which may, with peculiar property, be dominated political as they relate chiefly to injuries done immediately to the society itself. It is entrusted not to courts but to our elected representatives. They are accountable for failing to use it, both their voters and to the harsh judgment of history. Under the House's Title VI or Title IX, impeachment is a question of the privileges of House and must be voted on within 2 legislative days. Speaker Mike Johnson could intervene with his own rules resolution as he has on other matters, but this requires a vote, or this also requires a vote of the full House, which then effectively becomes the same thing. Thus, any individual representative has the ability to make all the others in both parties take position. Would it pass the House, much less reach 2/3 in the Senate? For now, obviously not. Down the road, it's not impossible. Either way, delay only deepens the sense of resignation, fueling the constitutional collapse. It is succumbing to despair when in fact just a few hundred people have the power and the sworn duty to end the insanity. It might be the only fictitious power they have left. One question naturally arises: impeach him for what? Not because there is any shortage of high crimes and misdemeanors, but because there are many usurping the power of purse, imposing massive tariffs, massive tax hikes, creating illegal pseudo offices, attacks on the First Amendment, threatening opponents, obstructing the courts, flagrant bribery, threatening to evade allies, disappearing people to a foreign torture camp. But there is one charge encompassing the sum of it all: the supreme constitutional crime of tyranny. Tyranny is the charge made by the Grassroots Efforts model article. It is an idea with deep roots from ancient Rome to the American Revolution to post-war World War II Germany. A head of state whose design is to become a despot has destroyed his own claim of legitimacy. Evoking the Declaration of Independence, the draft insists he has demonstrated his character is marked by every act which may define a tyrant. Arguably, a truer description of Trump than of George III. He openly pines for dictatorship, autocracy, even un-American monarchy. He recognizes no limits on his power, no law he must obey, no rights he must respect. It's an ugly truth, but we can't evade it by refusing to confront it in plain terms, openly and unapologetically. Every member of Congress, like the nation as a whole, faces a binary choice. It's Trump or the Constitution. We can have one or the other, but not both. To save the Constitution, we must be willing to use its indispensable remedy.